right, I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series. And you're going to have to pardon apologies to anyone who's going to be catching this on the audio replay. I'm a little bit sick. I always make the joke like, oh, I don't know if my voice is going to hold out for a 2 hour plus podcast, but I'm going to be keeping this one pretty lean. I sound worse than I feel, but I really wish I could control this kind of quality of voice, like really kind of keep that scratchy going when I wanted it, and then just kind of go back to like my smoother voice when I needed it. So we'll see how the show goes. I'm gonna try and keep the sort of over the top presentation of how I speak a little bit more mellow. We're gonna be a little cooler, a little groovier this week. I'm already seeing a tremendous group of buddies here in the live chat. We've got Dave Burns, Barry Johnson, Simon says Hypno, J-Man 150, Bray Gray, Fungi 455 says, I want to get rich just so I can review a potato in super expensive clothes in a super expensive car with a fancy hat. And I say life goals, man. Life goals. You get that cash. You get that potato. You review that potato in your fancy car and your fancy clothes with your fancy hat. We got Ron Guido, Gorm Lord, TED Talks Tech, Gabaletta, Copy Cash. We got a whole crew in here. This is going to be really, really good. Vazikos is saying I got this sexy voice going on. It's that joke from The Simpsons where Homer's trying to get a little attention for some snuggles. And you're like, what if I talk like this? And like, and unfortunately, I can't sustain either just the normal speaking or the cool guy voice. So, Copycash looks like no sound effects today. I can kind of pull off that. If we get Twitch subs, I'll still do the stupid since I don't have a soundboard. It's great. It's great. Simon says Hypno. Juan's using his Al Rod Stewart AI. Oh, I see. I was saying, I saw that comment and I thought you were making a reference to Al Green. And I was about to say, like, oh man, there's no way I could pull off Al Green. Then I saw AI. See, this was gonna mess me up is if we capitalize AI, it also looks like Al. It was like Al Rod Stewart. I don't know any good. I mean, I don't have anything against Rod Stewart. I don't know off the top of my head any Rod Stewart sounds. We're having a party, dancing to the music. I think it's the only thing I know of from Rod Stewart, like immediate recall off the top of my head. I snapped right by my ear, and that was too loud. I'm old. Oh, Maggie May, thank you. Simon says Hypno has my back there. J-Man50, very glad to see you staying hydrated, Juan. Simon says Hypno is just going to fill our chart. Ah, I forgot to do it. So we have refined Lex's power pop female singer sing-along playlist. It's now got like 50 tracks on it. My 7-year-old daughter has some exceptional taste. You know, if we have time at the end and my voice is still holding out, we'll break down the 7-year-old's power pop female singer playlist. And we got some great suggestions too. The last time I brought it up, had a couple guys on the Discord, well, what about her? And what about her? And it was pretty awesome because you have a bunch of like cool tech dude bros like all recommending music for a 7-year-old's sing-along playlist. And there were some bangers on there. So we definitely expanded. Lex is very much enjoying her playlist. Oh, Lana Del Rey. See, again, I love it. I bring this up. There is a 7-year-old girl who has her own playlist, and she is cultivating what songs go on this playlist. And every time I bring it up, really awesome people like in this chat are throwing out, well, you've got to check out this singer. And we found a couple artists that are absolute like must-haves on this. It's pretty rad. So we need to jump into some housekeeping. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week, getting your Monday off on the right foot. I know this is how I get my Monday off on the right foot, is having this kind of live Q&A conversation, as we've got a lot of politics to cover in this podcast. There's a lot of tech news out there that's a bit concerning with who we have elected to lead our discussions on the future of the products and services that we use. And this is going to be one of those weeks where I ask a lot of my audience to be active, not just to understand what's going on, but to contribute to the conversation. And then I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. I'm a little off my order here. Usually I've done all that, like, hey, this is where I talk to people instead of doing things and why I hold my show on a Monday. I also just want to highlight, we finally got Marie a bike. So now I have a fancy e-bike, Marie has a bike, Lex has a bike, and we went out for our first family ride together, all three of us on our bikes. Only did a couple miles, but Lex was a champ, and this was her first road ride where we went through some of the back side streets in our neighborhood, and there are some like horse trails and stuff, and it was kind of amazing. So Lex still has a lot to learn about riding alongside automobiles, but for her very first road ride, a couple miles on, it was pretty rad. I was really proud of her, and we got some sun. I did not apply enough sunscreen, and my nose is all burnt. I know I look like sort of a stereotypical depiction of a drunkard from like the era of Popeye cartoons. My big old red nose right here, but I would also accept Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer jokes at my expense because I like slathered it on, and then I had a helmet and glasses and all that was protected, and it's like what came out was just big old sunburn on my nose. So it's pretty great. Oh, Simon says Hypno garbage. Oh man, I'm such a big fan of garbage. So I don't know that Lex will go for garbage on a playlist of power pop. In fact, she's trying to push a little more EDM. Like, she's been making some of the jokes like, the music that has the bleeps and bloops. I think I like that music the best. And you're like, okay, kiddo, let's do it. So I think she's going more in that direction than hard rock. But it's funny, I'll pull up the playlist later. There is one track on there that we had to kind of give her a pass because it's maybe not really a female singer. So. Oh, Dave Burns. Lex is going to be a mad vehicular cyclist. I want her to have more experience than Marie and I did. Marie and I had bikes when we were kids and we would ride around our neighborhoods. I spent a lot of time as a mountain biking instructor for the Boy Scouts, a couple years of running like summer camp programs, and I would field strip mountain bikes. I love going off road. I have very little savvy, very little experience actually road biking. And so getting this e-bike has been a huge learning curve for me, and just like, how do I operate this thing when part of the expectation is I'm going to be driving around cars. And cars expect, a certain type of behavior, and then there are a whole bunch of drivers here in Southern California that are just oblivious. And so you have to develop a whole different set of instincts for road riding versus mountain biking. And so I want to start Lex off with those expectations as I'm learning, like we're all learning together. And so it really has been an incredible just sort of shift, an incredible kind of experience getting that all up to spec. All right, let me get this out of the way here. We're going to jump into some housekeeping. Last week was a pajama podcast, so I didn't do any. And I haven't really talked a lot about the videos and the articles and stuff that have been going up. I've been playing with a few more shorts. I did a short just talking about notification history, which is a service I hope you're using on your Android phone. And apologies if you have an iPhone, you do not have something as cool as a notification history. I was about to make an "it just works" joke there, but there's no need to. I just sort of referenced it. So there's the snarky right there. I've been debating, like, how do I want to position shorts? And I've been playing with like tips and tricks. That's one way that I can make a short. In like a minute, that's a really good way to sort of set up a little tutorial. I don't know about y'all, but I do a lot of video editing and rendering, and every time I want to try and do something different in a video, I kind of have to learn a new skill in DaVinci Resolve. And that's where we plop to this week's sponsor, Skill Learn. If you go to Skill Learn with promo code some gadget guy, you can learn skills on Skill Learn. I don't have a sponsorship like that. That's not something that happens. So I go to YouTube, and it drives me crazy. It's the thing I hate about tech videos and tutorial videos. I look at the title of the video. The title of the video is how to adjust transitions in DaVinci Resolve. And I'm like, okay, I know what that video is. The video is how to adjust transitions in DaVinci Resolve. That is something I would like to learn how to do. Why is the video 7 minutes long? So I click on the video and it starts off with like a splashy graphics. And then someone starts talking over just like a screen capture of DaVinci Resolve. Hey guys, it's Jake. Jake who makes tutorials for DaVinci Resolve. And in this video, we're going to take a look in DaVinci Resolve on how to adjust transitions. All right, so here we go. I have a timeline up in DaVinci Resolve. Now, when we drop files in DaVinci Resolve, you can stick two files together. When you stick two files together, that is a transition. And so like, same thing happens in tech videos. Like the title of the video is smartphone 17 review, and you click on it and someone starts talking. Hey guys, it's your boy smartphone reviewer, and in this video we're going to take a look at the smartphone 17 and we have a review of what this phone is all about. And you're like, I know, I clicked on the title, I clicked on the, I don't need you to tell me what the video is about. Like, the whole introduction and re-explanation, I know there's got to be something psychologically comforting about that. And I just can't. I just can't sit through videos where it's like, I'm going to spend a significant amount of time telling you what the video is about instead of just getting to it. So I've stopped doing tutorials and tips and tricks videos as regular videos. It's one of the only things I will try as short. If I can boil this down into under 60 seconds, I feel like I've got something valuable to contribute. The other thing I've been playing with shorts are Q&A. So I've got another video that's going to be coming from questions asked on the Patreon, and that's going to be its own little short too. That to me is more just the fun challenge. Can I answer a question? Because I am long-winded. Can I answer a question in under 50 seconds? Because I've got to at least detail the question and then answer the question. So I've got to spend at least 10 seconds talking about the question. So that's just fun. I think that's kind of a fun challenge. Oh, we've got a J-Man 150. I got to throw a J-Man 150 has gifted a tier 1 sub to Ron Guido and Fungi 455 on Twitch. Thank you so much, J-Man. I really appreciate that. That is very cool of you, supporting the stream and the podcast, and I really appreciate it. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. I'm way behind on the chat. I was gonna jump into housekeeping, and I'm already way off my script. Yeah, Barry Johnson, you know what I mean? It's like there's a certain pattern to a YouTube review which has become so ingrained. He's just like saying psychologically comforting, and then he puts a bunch of skulls up, like, dead. I really want to not be inhospitable. Like, I want to engage and have a conversational explanation of my experiences using a gadget, but it's just that opening patter kills me. Hey guys! Oh man, I'm just already dead. Like, I clicked on a video, it's not that I don't want the host to not be personable, but I've got kind of a New York mentality on this, right? It's like if I go into my favorite bagel shop and someone is staring at the menu when it's their turn to order, then that person has failed in life. And when I click on a video talking about like this next hot new smartphone, I want to get right into talking about the smartphone. Even my intro is kind of teeth grating. It's like just taking the time to do a little for the Some Gadget Guy logo is like, I shouldn't have to do this. I should just go directly into like showing a panning shot of the phone while I say like, hey, I've been spending this much time with it. These are some of the experiences that I want to get into, and just like hyper condense if I can. Yeah, I get real salty. Gormlord, anytime I look up a tutorial, I immediately jump a minute 30 to 2 minutes into the video. I love it. Oh, Muppinish is saying I should be laughing under my Some Gadget Guy pop. I mean, that was just one where I took myself by surprise. It gets so weird and lonely making YouTube videos where I'm talking to this thing, this like giant eyeball in the middle of my desk. And sometimes you just go a little bit loopy. And like I am saying something out loud to hear myself say it. And it's kind of funny that I said it. And it's not funny to anyone else. It's literally an inside joke for me. And I was so tickled by that that I just left the chuckling under the Some Gadget Guy pop. It was so bad. I really need to step out of the office a little bit more for the remainder of this year. Yeah, Gabaletta. I mean, go at a subway. This is annoying. The equivalent of going to a subway and the person in front of you asking, "How does it all work?" makes me rethink about that pesky commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." It is my absolute favorite. I will go out of my way to support restaurants that will skip unready customers. It, it's my favorite thing. You go to a bagel shop in New York, and like if you take a second to go, they'll pass you. They have too much going on. There is a line of people out the door. COVID is still technically a thing. You're done. Sit down. There's a sandwich shop in Burbank. This podcast not sponsored by Santoro's in Burbank. They're polite about it, but they do not wait for you. There are a set number of ingredients. They have cheese. The only cheese they have is provolone. They have all of these amazing deli meats that they shave like when you're ordering the sandwich. It is delicious. It is a hot spot during lunch rush, especially because they're in Burbank. You're surrounded by all the studios, so you don't have time. You've got like angry, hungry, agitated editors and producers all under crunch because of all the major studios. They have like 7 minutes to go get a sandwich and shove it in their face. And if you walk up to that counter and go, "What kind of bread do you have?" You're not ready to order, take a look at the menu. I'm going to move on to the next customer. When you're ready, come right back in line. What are you having? And that's it. You're done. Can I get a sandwich with lettuce? We don't carry lettuce. If you look at the menu, you'll see all the ingredients. When you're ready to order, we'll get you back. What are you having? And it makes me so happy. I just, so, I need to drive out to Burbank now and go get a big old fatty Santoro sub. And J-Man 150 gifted another tier 1 sub to Kappa Cash. Ah, man, thank you so much. You're really rocking my socks this week. Oh, Dave Burns. Sorry, hold on. Dave says this. The eyeball tracking. Oh wait, where is it? The eyeball isn't. Oh, the eyeball isn't talking back. I might need to see someone. It gets it gets weird. It gets real weird when this is like your primary sort of relationship with viewers and stuff, and you have to kind of imagine what people are like on the other side. It's pretty crazy. So, getting into some housekeeping because it's already 9:20. I had a whole slew of videos and content, but I haven't listed all of like my shorts and stuff. So I don't think I'm going to be putting shorts on somegadgetguy.com. I'm kind of debating on that, but if anyone has any strong feelings, please send them my way because I'm not sure. Like this is a blog post that has a video embedded in it, and I'm not sure how shorts fit into that. It's a weird tweak of the psychology of how we make videos. We're going to talk a little bit about this during the gadget block, but I put out an accidental long-term review on the Vivo V27 Pro. This phone is a delightful mid-ranger to use, and it has a really fun aesthetic twist where the back plate can do some fun things, especially if you're a 90s kid who loved hypercolor t-shirts. Then last week, I put out a kind of longer look video on mobile gaming accessories. This is a starter for customizing your mobile gaming experience and just some ideas to consider as you look at making a Steam Deck or a Switch or a Razer Edge a better fit for your specific needs. The cool thing about mobile gaming is it's an entirely enclosed experience. You get a Nintendo Switch and that might be all you really need. But if you want to add a little bit of customization and a few choice accessories, you can really dial in something specific and make it a perfect fit solution for your needs. I also just want to highlight, again, the week prior, I did a video titled Why You Want a 1-inch type sensor in Your Phone Camera. This is part 1. Part two is going to be out this week. I actually have it all. I have it all edited down, but I just had to get a couple little extra B-roll clips. And so part two is why you don't want a 1-inch camera sensor in your phone, and that's going to be coming out this week. And then I also just wanted to highlight. I know I talked about it before, but it was just sort of fun revisiting. I don't do a whole bunch of general life tech. I try not to do sponsor after sponsor after sponsor of just kind of cheap gear. But DD Pi's Z50 is actually on sale. So what started out as a $250 dual camera GPS enabled dash camera for your car, I think is now down to something like, it's like $100 off. So I just wanted to highlight that again. They sponsored my video. That obviously, like, you know, I had a financial attachment to making this, but we really have enjoyed having this dash camera, and the front camera quality is surprisingly good. So if you're looking for a dual camera dash cam, this is on sale, pretty solid. So I just wanted to highlight that one more time. And then on the Patreon, I've had a couple production diaries, and I put out a 9,000 word script preview on why I'm a Samsung hater. And I don't know if I'm going to make that video. It's 9,000 words long, which is a lot. I don't know if you've counted words before, but that's going to be a very beefy video for me to shoot. It's currently in script preview. Today I'm going to lift it. I'm going to just make it open for all members on the page. I have different tiers, and really the main thing is, if you chip in a buck, I think you get your entertainment value out of the content that I produce. And then I also make higher quality videos just for the patrons. 1080p on YouTube, 4K, and often 4K 60 on the Patreon. The only time I'll sort of divide up content is when it's sort of a temporary hold, like a preview or a script preview, or I'll also do sort of like some general Q&As. So people at like higher tiers, I start calling those like investor tiers, but that's not really critical. The main bulk of my audience is like $1 or $2. But the script preview is where I kind of work stuff out. So at a higher tier, you get sort of a temporary look at what's going on there. Occasionally, I'll take a script preview and just open it up. And this one, I think I will open up now that it's been sort of locked down for about a week. I don't know how else to sort of approach this conversation. Like, people keep acting like, well, you just hate on Samsung for no reason, and you're like, this company has done terrible things throughout the entire course of their existence, like into the 60s. We want to start in the 1960s. We can start talking about how Samsung has been doing scummy things as a company. So it's a difficult conversation. It's a tough one to broach. So I'll open it up. If there's any kind of feedback on this, it would be a very significant project to put together one of these like sort of video essays. You know what I mean? I'm not really an essayist like this. So this is something that's a little outside of my wheelhouse. But I'll definitely be open to feedback or suggestions on it. Gabaletta, you should have made it 9,001 words, so you can say it's over 9,000. No, it is. It is over 9,000 words. I believe at last count, if you include all of the links that I have sourced just to kind of back up what I'm talking about, because it's not just me going, oh, I don't like that Samsung does this. It's like, no. There have been actual consumer harms throughout the entire history of Samsung's business operation. I believe we're at 9,400 words. So it is over 9,000 and by more than one. Simon says, Hypno, you think he'd be down for 12,000 words on Samsung loathing? I mean, it's one of those topics I can go on for a while about, but I tried to focus, and with focusing, I cut it from like 12,000 words to 9,000. So yeah, it's pretty great. J-Man with 50. Imagine if Apple and Samsung were the only two scummy companies. So that's the thing. We can appeal to the whataboutisms, right? This is a part of my video, and this is a part of my script. It's not that other companies don't do bad things. Currently, what two companies can do bad things at the largest scale in the world of consumer electronics? So when we're upset that when OnePlus does something bad, we should be upset. We should absolutely be upset. OnePlus was caught first rigging benchmarks, and we had this like, oh, OnePlus doing that again, and all this disreputable stuff, and how they're treating their customers and lying about their performance. And then immediately after, Samsung was caught doing the same thing and had 4 years of Galaxy phones delisted from Geekbench. So shouldn't our outrage over Samsung have been 10 times higher than our outrage over OnePlus? Delivered at scale, I would imagine you're probably selling 10 times more premium tier phones from Samsung than we are from OnePlus. That's what's out of proportion. Apple stole tech and put it in the Apple Watch. They're not going to get punished for it because they've sold so many Apple Watches. I guess it's just something that you can't patent because we have to help Apple out. So shouldn't our outrage with Apple be an order of magnitude higher? Because whenever they mess up or they do something scummy, they do it at a scale that cannot be reproduced by any of their competition. Google had to buy Fitbit just to get into the top three smartwatch manufacturers in the United States. So that's the problem. And we kind of hand wave it away, or we say it's just the same as. Literally, if these two companies do the exact same thing as a smaller player, it hurts an extra 0 or 2 more customers. You do something bad on a Samsung and it's delivered at scale, you're talking at least 25 million smartphone consumers in 1 year of Galaxy S purchases. I feel like that's significantly more important than just, oh, but, uh, like Google did something bad once. You're like, yeah, and they sell like a million phones. Samsung sells, when they miss their expectations in a year, they sell 260 million phones. So our outrage should be correlating with the scope of the potential harm. So that's just one of the things that you have to spend a lot of time talking about. Because whenever you bring up Samsung, you immediately get every single logical debate fallacy known to man. It's whataboutism. So all companies do bad things. Why should I care? No, you should care. Who cares if they misrepresent their advertising? I know that they're still delivering the best product, but they aren't because their advertising has convinced you that it's good, but it's not better than the competition. You've got to sit there and pick apart every single sort of emotional defense of the brand, and I don't get it. I don't get why someone who likes the company doesn't hold them to a higher standard. I loved Samsung in the Note 4 days, and I wanted more of them as they kept promising these huge new improvements. Same thing with Apple, super diehard Knights. Why are you acting like Apple is a market leader if nothing on the iPhone is really demonstrably better and you pay more? So, all of the links that we're going to be talking about, all of the show notes, all of the links we're going to be talking about, all of the housekeeping is going to be on this week's show notes on somegadgetguy.com. Let's chew through some news. Like I said, there's a lot of legal news, and I am not. Uh, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not qualified to dig too deep. Excuse me. So let's kind of just highlight some of these stories because I think they're important to follow up on, to keep just sort of in mind what's going on. We mentioned a while back some of the legal shenanigans that Elon Musk was going through on a number of his various industries. And for someone who is the CEO of like 3 different companies, it's incredible to me how much time he can also dedicate to like courtroom shenanigans. Because obviously his lawyers are tackling the bulk of that, but he still has to be involved in lawsuits. So it must not be. Oh, Barry, we're going to get to the Restrict Act too. I'm saving that for the end of the news block. So it's always surprising to me, like how much time he has to like mess around on Twitter. It must not be very difficult being the CEO of a 1 billion-dollar corporation, because he just shows how much time you can kind of flit around and do silly things and meme and poop post. So this one is coming by way of Business Insider. Oh, whoops! I don't have my my browser formatted for the live stream. Doing it live. Derp de derp. Elon Musk broke the law with a tweet about Tesla stock options court rules. This is dating back to 2018. Look at how slow our legal system is. He tweeted something back in 2018. We've gone through multiple rounds of courts and appeals, and like we're kind of just now getting to the last few options for Elon Musk defending this behavior. But oh no, I thought the tweet was in this article. Where is it? The charge came in response to a 2018 tweet when Musk responded to a user who asked him about his views of unions. The action was brought by the United Auto Workers after staff tried to unionize at Tesla's factory in Fremont. Quote, nothing stopping Tesla team at our car plant from voting union, could do so tomorrow if they wanted, but why pay union dues and give up stock options for nothing? Our safety record is 2 times better than when plant was UAW and everybody already gets healthcare, Musk tweeted. So this is messing with stocks and pricing and trying to interrupt unionizing activities. Why pay union dues and give up stock options for nothing? And this is one of those major issues that we run into with Elon Musk, is that he likes to tweet out information about the health, the viability, the profitability of his companies, and that has a significant impact on market trends and reactions to that. And we've seen this a number of times from Elon Musk. He'll tweet out something just, sort of memey, right? Like, oh, I'm so wacky and hip and I do what the kids do with the memes, fellow kids. But then that has a significant impact on business reactions, stock price reactions. And I don't see any way where, even if it's unintentional, that's not an issue with market manipulation. And so now, this tweet from 2018, 2018 was 5 years ago. I think like the 90s were like 10 years ago. 2018 was 5 years ago. This is still being hashed out in courts, going through appeals. And it's just sort of a distasteful look. Our tech industry has changed significantly over the last 5 years, and Elon Musk's approach to things like social media have changed pretty significantly over the last year. So it's just really sad that the fallout and the activity of something like this takes so long, and he's able to continue operating like this. While they're dealing with this one issue, he's still engaged in this behavior with every one of his other properties. And so nothing has dissuaded him from operating on social media like that. We've talked about numerous instances like corporation does bad thing and they get fined millions of dollars, justice. And you're like, but what the company did bad got them billions in profit. So your fine was a minor rounding error in their quarterly profits. They're not going to change their behavior. You've just shown them that they can do this and then just pay a fine tax. And same thing here. Nothing has stopped Elon Musk from operating like a total D-bag on social media. And a court case like this should be punitive enough that it would do something to change his behavior. That's why we have laws and punishments and fines. That should be something that he notices. So unfortunately, it's not going to be anything that he notices. Oh, Marilyn saying good morning. Everyone say, hey, good morning to Marilyn in the chat. Good times. All right, let me get this out of the way here. Moving on. This is another one where I worry that the declaration of the misdeed and whatever potential fallout from the misdeed will be insufficient to correct the behavior of the corporation that did the misdeed. This is one I really want to take a look at, as the fallout from this one series of court cases gave us so much insider info on how scummy major, huge, big tech companies can operate, and especially when it comes to the lawyer side. Just like how ugly it is that if Apple or Google do something bad, they likely won't be corrected for it because no one wants to fight their army of lawyers. They have too much money that they can throw at lawyers to keep doing the things that we would find objectionable. That was a weird preamble into this article. But again, my man crush, John Brodkin, over at Ars Technica, absolutely one of my favorite tech reporters of the day. Judge finds Google destroyed evidence and repeatedly gave false info to court. Google is in trouble for auto-deleting chats needed as evidence in the Epic Games case. Quote, after substantial briefing by both sides and an evidentiary hearing that featured witness testimony and other evidence, the court concludes that sanctions are warranted, U.S. District Judge James Donato wrote. Later in the ruling, he wrote that evidence shows that Google intended to subvert the discovery process and that chat evidence was lost with the intent to prevent its use in litigation and with the intent to deprive another party of the information use in the litigation. I want to try and get down. And so then we get to the end of this article, how to punish Google, not yet decided. Google finally agreed on February 7 to turn the history setting to on for all 383 employees, subject to a legal hold, at least temporarily. Donato has not yet decided how Google should be sanctioned, saying the determination of an appropriate non-monetary sanction requires further proceeding. In their motion for sanctions, Epic Games and other plaintiffs asked the court to issue adverse inference jury instructions to remedy Google's spoliation of Google chats, or alternatively to issue a curative jury instruction. I just, we've got to, I got to drink a quick sip of coffee. Hold on, my throat's about to wig out. It's frustrating because I wouldn't necessarily put myself as being some huge fan of Epic. But what did I say previously? Epic has enough of a bankroll, has enough money, has enough has enough funds. I'm fuzzy on words today. They have the resources to actually take Apple and Google to court, and they can force the disclosure of a ton of information. A company like Google actively trying to subvert the process of discovery, that's a real bad look. That to me is dangerous territory for, especially for information brokers, being able to craft a narrative around their products, advertise at a scale that no one else can match, push out information. They can punitively harm their opponents through legal action. And then when they're in the legal process, they are not earnest participants. And this is what's frustrating is I look at an organization like Alphabet, and I have no fondness for Alphabet as a giant amoeba blob of smaller industries. We do need actions that can look at the entire structure of a mega tech corporation and say, hey, you know, like ad sales are one thing, and video streaming as a platform is another thing, and hardware divisions are another thing. Where I absolutely adore what the team on the Pixel hardware team are doing, they're in a bubble in Google that is not reflective of the whole rest of the organization. And where do you draw that line? This is not a person who withheld information and sought to mislead the discussion in a court of law where participants are under oath. We treat corporations like people, but Google can't be thrown in prison. Google is going to be able to point to a lawyer and say, well, they misrepresented and they didn't do their due diligence in our case, and maybe that should be a mistrial, and we'll have to go through another trial with, you know, a lawyer who isn't going to be disbarred. Like, they can throw an individual under the bus, but Google did not perjure themselves, right? So now we've got to figure what is an appropriate punishment for the organization. How do you even wrap your brain around that? And especially when they're saying like an appropriate non-monetary sanction. What do you do to Google that's going to get any of their attention that's non-monetary? That doesn't make any sense at all. We're going to punish Google on something that really, really grossly misrepresented their court case, and again, is probably a business practice under this that like has netted them billions of dollars in anti-competitive business practices. But we're also gonna tag them with something that it's not a fine. Like anyone's gonna care. It's not gonna cost them a penny, but they're really gonna learn their lesson this time. I promise. We're getting to the point where we have shielded the executives and in here are also part of the legal team from any type of direct consequences of their actions. Google will face consequences, but the people in charge of Google's policy are sort of buffered from that. And unfortunately, I think we do need to get to a place where bankers, tech execs, investment brokers, like all these people that can do significant harm in the market are individually facing some kind of dilemma. If they are caught and they have to face the consequences of doing bad things, and it's not just the corporation, then maybe they'll be less inclined to do those bad things. Right now, it doesn't seem like anything that we're doing is really reining in the scope of how these corporations and these organizations can operate. Again, they keep getting caught, and they keep getting caught doing things like this, and then they're not really appropriately showcased. They're not really appropriately punished for those actions. So Ron Guido replies, we should break Google up. And that's really interesting that you brought that up, Ron, because my very next article, going into screen share here, Senate bill seeks to break up Google and Meta ad businesses. Man, Ron, you are on the pulse, buddy. You knew exactly where I was going with that. I have very little confidence that anything serious is going to come from this. But John Fingus, another fantastic reporter when it comes to dealing with tech and tech politics. I'm sorry, John Fingus over at Engadget has written this one up, and I would highly recommend just giving it a quick read because he links appropriately to the types of articles. It's not a long story. But here, I want to get this just kind of intro paragraph. The U.S. government might not lean solely on lawsuits to limit online ad monopolies. A bipartisan group of senators has introduced the America Act, advertising middlemen endangering rigorous internet competition accountability. Yes, it's overwrought, with the intention of breaking up the ad businesses of tech giants like Google and Meta. Large digital ad firms, those handling more than 20 billion in transactions, would not be allowed to own both an ad exchange as well as either a demand or supply side platform. This is huge. This is exactly what we need to start wedging the differences in all of the little players that are kind of under the umbrella of a megacorp. I don't believe that this is gonna have legs. We're gonna be talking about the Restrict Act in just a bit here, but this one, this is my preferred tactic. I'm a big fan of elected officials like Elizabeth Warren. I think Warren had some really good ideas about how we should go about reining in big tech, and part of this is you should not be able to control the entire vertical of an industry. You need to be able to break up where appropriate and separate these bubbles. Like I was saying, the Google hardware team is doing cool work. I'm very concerned about the ad sales, the search team, YouTube. I believe if we were to compartmentalize and firewall off those business sectors from each other, we would actually have more room for competition. We would have better reactions to consumer interests. I believe that this is the better strategy. And so if we can go in there and say, hey, this one part of your business is making a ton of money on ad sales, you should not be able to staple that to other industries that have a vested interest in prioritizing advertising. Like you shouldn't be able to also put your own services at the top of your search results. You shouldn't be able to stick and combine all of these options. And if we're concerned about some of the more recent moves by Apple that I think are very concerning in the space for harvesting user data and selling and building their own ad network, we got to go after Google and Facebook first. We can go after Google and Facebook. That sends a clear warning shot to a company like Apple, like, hey, maybe it is pretty scummy that you're starting to do the exact same thing that you've always complained about with your competitors. Apple's ad business is going to be just as ruthless as Facebook and Google's. And I very much believe that's why Apple attacked Facebook with their do not track settings, because they were harvesting your user data directly. They wanted their own little bucket of advertising dollars that they could sell to their participants. So, this is a first step. I would very much read into the America Act, clumsy name that though it may be, and just the fact that this is kind of bipartisan. I'm such a fanboy for politicians like Elizabeth Warren, and I think she has done a very good job of highlighting abuse in the economic sectors. And I really feel like she did not get the fair shake. I feel like we would be in much better shape if she had actually been elected president instead of Joe Biden. But she is signed on as supporting this bill. The fact that she has shown interest in supporting it gives it, for me, a higher level of cachet, like credibility. She is giving it a bit more credibility. And I also just want to throw just a quick little shift. J-Man 150 again, rocking my socks. Tier 1 sub to Raymondit. Thank you very much. J-Man, you are killing it today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I really appreciate just how much you've been supporting. I mean, across all of the podcasts, not just today. Oh, fun guy. My mom trusts Apple and hates Google. Her first mistake was trusting a corporation. We have, because the Apple thing, like I wrote 9,000 words on why I'm a Samsung hater, and in that article is also sort of an explanation, like, hey, if you want, I can also make almost the exact same video talking about Apple, because I went through the same sort of ebb and flow, the same sort of love and then decrescendo of support for Apple as well. But it's I mean, like, pulling up an article like this immediately after having read that article about Google trying to subvert discovery in a court case, it's kind of a bad look. I think the thing that bugs is when I went from being an Apple fan to being a Samsung fan to then just kind of stepping outside of that, is you still get painted with the brush of your previous actions. So, I mean, I was a big old LG stan because I thought they made a great competitive product until they left the smartphone game. But someone who is a diehard knight of a company expects that you are also a competing diehard knight of another company. And that's the main thing that I've tried to walk away from. I still have favorites. I still have companies that I prefer their products, but it's getting away from that kind of lockstep, rigorous, I am only supporting this just because of the label. And trying to talk to someone who hasn't kind of made that own rational discovery for themselves is often a lost cause. Because, like, oh, well, if you think Apple's so bad, then Google also did bad things. And you're like, yeah, I'm one of the first people to talk about it. As soon as I see that Google did bad things, it supports my interest in competition. So let me tell you why my preferred smartphone brand also needs to face regulatory scrutiny and needs a corrective action in how they do business, because I think it's bad for all these consumers. And then that just sort of emboldens, like, the Apple fan. Oh yeah, Google does do bad things. Oakley dokley and Apple. Well, no, but I mean, like, Apple, what they do isn't the same. You're like, well, then no, we can't have an earnest meeting of the minds if only one side could admit that their side did bad things. That's not a thing. That's just you digging your heels in. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Oh, J Man, I mean, I'm serious. Like, this has been really cool, and I very much appreciate all the support, man. It's very, very cool of you. And then I also got to throw Gabaletta gifting a tier 1 sub to Aditya Anil. Aditya is good people. Thank you not only for supporting the podcast, but also shouting out my boy Aditya Anil. He's a good guy. So he's also asking me to stretch and to check. J-Man saying check my posture. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water here. My lid is off. That's dangerous. Keeping a full mug of water here on a table full of computer parts. Oh, McCorcoran, I'm a big fan of Bernie too. The only reason why, this is the joke. The joke why I was supporting Elizabeth Warren, it comes from The Simpsons. In an alternate future, Donald Trump is elected president, and the president immediately after Donald Trump is Lisa Simpson. And that idea is just kind of silly. But Elizabeth Warren was running against Donald Trump, and to me, that was kind of the perfect fit. Who do I want to serve as president after Donald Trump? We need a nerd. We needed a policy wonk who would have understood some of the root causes of problems in our political process. And Bernie Sanders is an incredible disruptor. He is the one of the singular figures that actually represents left-leaning politics in the Democratic Party. Right now, American politics has been dragged so right-wing that most of the Democrats in our sort of elected seats right now are centrists at best, often center-right. And he was like the lone standout, like independent on the left side of this political spectrum, actually scratching and crawling the American process a little bit more left wing. But he also has never really properly demonstrated great coalition building or leadership, whereas Elizabeth Warren has actually gotten some impressive things done in regulating banking. And especially like the Consumer Credit Protection Bureau. I forget exactly what that acronym or that lettering is, but she got that done. Bernie Sanders really hasn't gotten anything like that done in terms of reform. Bernie Sanders is the guy that I look to help blow up parts of the conversation, and Elizabeth Warren, I think, is a little more adept at fixing systems that are near collapse. And that's why after Donald Trump, I really thought she would have been the best person for the job. So we needed someone who could undo the damage and fix systems before they completely collapsed. Boy, howdy, is that not Joe Biden? Wow. All right, sorry. We've been getting into politics. I don't want to get too heavy on that. We've got two more one quick story that I just want to highlight because we've got to keep an eye on this. And something we've been talking about. We talked about this on Best of Our Week, where TK was talking about how he had tried using some AI tools, and I brought up some of the issues with rights and usage. Like we had a pretty frank chat with representatives at Microsoft, and we weren't able to fully kind of hash out like, okay, well you've got this AI tool and it can create this kind of content, but who owns it? You know, the whole process of creation and ownership. I think most of us would agree, IP law needs serious reform, has needed serious reform for probably a generation now, likely longer. But AI introduces an entirely new step in the process of creation and managing content. And to me, I brought up the point like, there's this cool idea that like anyone can create anything at any time, and you tell a computer program, I want you to make a Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland character do a different version for the end of Endgame. Well, all of that is IP. Robert Downey Jr.'s likeness, not license. Robert Downey Jr.'s likeness is his to control. He decides what he wants to be used in another property. And then Disney owns all of the Marvel IP, and their specific look for these characters is licensed and is trademarked and patented and all these other legal terms. So someone being able to use just some generic chat tool to say, make these two characters do something different is very much going to concern a mega corporation like Disney. What if fan-made films start really outperforming the stuff that Disney can create? I feel like that's going to be the first major challenge to AI. Isn't going to be how it harms smaller artists. It's not going to be how it harms smaller like reporters and journalists, the individuals who make this stuff. We can't mount an attack on AI. It's mostly going to come from the megacorps. As soon as Warner Brothers sees that their properties are being infringed upon, they're going to start acting. As we see in this article here from Ars Technica, written up by Tim Lee, stable diffusion copyright lawsuits could be a legal earthquake for AI. The AI software Stable Diffusion has a remarkable ability to turn text into images. When I asked the software to draw Mickey Mouse in front of a McDonald's sign, for example, it generated the picture you see above, with Mickey Mouse, a like a pretty reasonably good version of Mickey Mouse, just kind of different shoes, I guess. The color of his legs and tights are a little different, but standing in front of kind of a warped, almost kind of a Picasso version of the McDonald's Golden Arches. Like it's kind of the M shape, but there are extra like pieces attached to it. But on just if you were just scrolling past this, you would see Mickey Mouse standing in front of the Golden Arches. And so this is a series of class action lawsuits are now stacking up against AI. One of them filed by Getty Images. In February, the image licensing giant Getty filed a lawsuit of its own. Quote, Stability AI has copied more than 12 million photographs from Getty Images collection, along with the associated captions and metadata, without permission from or compensation to Getty Images. And the next line is hilarious. Legal experts tell me that these are uncharted legal waters. Like, we are not. Our legal system is horrifically unprepared for how this is going to go down. Because once all of that data has been soaked up by the AI, you can order that one company to sort of purge their data and make the AI learn new things from scratch with new walls put up on what information it can and can't acquire. That is insufficient. You can say, hey, don't scan Getty Images for data, but you've got to do this website by website by website. So now Flickr, you can't scan Flickr unless you pay to license their IP. What if you just go to Google? What if you train your AI to go through a VPN, to go to Google Images, and then just start raking all of that data? Because you'll get all of Getty Images, you'll get all of Flickr and SmugMug, you'll get 500 pics, you'll get Imgur. We don't know how to handle this, especially once you go one generation removed. So yeah, I'm not going to scan Getty Images. Let me just scan every single website that has ever hosted an image from Getty Images. And technically, I'm scraping that data not from Getty Images. And that's one AI. That's Stable Diffusion. What about every other AI? Our legal system is built on a sort of a foundation of precedent where we would have to go AI by AI by AI, lawsuit by lawsuit by lawsuit, with defendant by defendant by defendant. And if we do like big bulk class actions, that kind of abbreviates some of it, but that's still going to be years of courtroom shenanigans. It's going to be years of legal exercises to finally come to a conclusion where the whole time the AI is still operating, right? We don't have a legal system that says, hey, you're infringing upon this content. Our IP laws are woefully inadequate to do this. You're infringing upon this content, you have to stop letting the AI operate. So far, and please someone correct me if I have this wrong, I believe the only country that has blocked a singular AI over this type of IP shenanigan is Italy. I think Italy has blocked one of them. I think ChatGPT. They might have just refunded all of their users' purchases in Italy. That's it. There is not a lot of activity to properly buffer AI from these types of business practices because we've never built systems to kind of defend this sort of licensing or art holding. I mean, it was distasteful when we saw people just ripping off deviant art artists for NFTs. Now, like, AI is just a completely, entirely different kind of beast that I don't know that you can properly defend against in this way. It's as soon as you stop one, 5 other AI systems are going to start scraping similar data. It's a whack-a-mole game, but you're fighting infinity. It's incredible. I really cannot wrap my brain around the scope and the scale of a problem like this unless we could come up with, unless we could come up with IP reform that would be better in keeping with how to protect the rights of artists. Yeah, McCorcoran, I agree, but I think there are other harms that we might need to prepare ourselves for. So McCorcoran says AI is just going to become fodder for more speculation from the capitalist class. Anytime they see any growth area, it just becomes a haven for investment. So the reason why I think this is a little different than NFTs is because it can demonstrate the ability to abbreviate tedious work. NFTs were just a pump and dump scam. I still have not seen anything compelling about an NFT to suggest to me that it can operate as a practical investment or something that can accrue value over time. Not in the way that NFTs are formatted. I still think blockchain technology has a ton of potential for online databases and ledgers and things like that. I think once a blockchain is boring, then we'll see it can actually provide a lot of value. But when it's being used as a part of a currency or speculative value, I think it's just scams. It's scams all the way down. But AI is going to be a little different in that this generative word salad that computers can create helps abbreviate some of the dopey, tedious work. When TK and I were talking about this last Friday, we were bringing up examples like it's so tedious making a YouTube video now. I've got to write a script and shoot it and edit it and collect my B-roll and put it all together and render it. And then I've got to upload it. And that takes time because our internet connections suck. And then once it's uploaded, I can't just publish. No, that would be too easy. I've got to come up with a clever title, and then I've got to come up with a great keyword-filled, search-rich description, and then I've got to come up with a fun thumbnail that's gonna make it super clickbaity, and then I've got to add tags, and I've got to go through and I've got to rate my own monetization, or is there anything in here that was sponsored, or I have to grade myself on whether or not I said naughty words. Like YouTube doesn't even do that for you. You have to tell YouTube, you know, is your content naughty? Because we'll demonetize you, but you've got to tell us. And like that just takes more and more and more and more and more time. So then you finally get to the video, and then you've got to distribute it, and then you've got to share it on social media, and then you've got to put it on Twitter and on Reddit and spread it all out. And you're like, that was just one video. I wanted to make a 5-minute video just talking about something I thought was cool, and I can't. It's like 2 days of work to get this cute little video out and have it have any hope, any chance for finding an audience or finding some success. That's not a thing. But AI can maybe help abbreviate. Maybe AI can like, hey, I want you to find a great SEO description for this product for a YouTube comment or a YouTube description. And it can go off and maybe just give me enough of a shell, enough of a skeleton for that I can tweak it a little bit, put it up in there, and that saved me a couple minutes on getting the video distributed. I've also brought up, press releases. So many companies send me press releases, and it's like, you really think like there are so many big websites that will publish every press release. I can't do that. Every single press release that comes to me, I can't sit there and take the time to write up a brief little article blurb and put it in a blog post and then copy the contents of the press release to then also distribute. Like, I can't. But what if I could build an AI tool that every time I got a press release, it could just squish all that information down and give me like a little paragraph blurb, and then it could go and publish it? How valuable is that press release, right? That's tedious work, just regurgitating the information that's in the press release. So we can kind of find some of these areas where like we're doing a whole bunch of busy work. Maybe there are some tools that can kind of help us out with that. But then on top of that, I believe AI is going to be used to try and displace human labor for other things. It's real bad if we lean on AI in its current form, which is basically just copy other people's work. It's going to be real bad when AI starts replacing journalists, actual reporters, because then it's AI copying other AI. If someone has a newsroom and they're paying for humans to really go out there and build the relationships and do the consistent reporting and deliver well thought out content, and then an AI can almost instantaneously rip off that content, you're going to have a whole bunch of middle managers saying, well, we can save costs by doing AI too. And then you're just going to have this like endless spiral of chatbots copying chatbots. And that becomes really, really bad. So I don't think AI is going to be speculative. I think these tools are going to show monetary, like actual financial impacts on other industries. But I think a bunch of dumb executives are going to overvalue what AI can do. And we've already seen it with BuzzFeed, like so many articles that are just written poorly, and you're like, yeah, it was written by AI, and when they got rid of most of the humans in their newsroom, that's gonna be really bad. That is a very difficult situation to try and manage. So apparently McCorcoran has asked an AI to write a poem about me. So that's funny. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that because we've got one more big. Oh, sorry, but yeah, definitely check out Ars Technica's write up on this because again, Ars does some of the best work on also linking some of the other articles and courtroom filings. So if you really want to get a good sense of what this looks like, the entire lay of the land, and let me just kind of scroll through. Let me go back into screen share here real quick. Um, a, a full article just introducing what's going on with Getty Images, a complex collage tool, uh, teaching Stable Diffusion to draw, the case for fair use, copying problems, training off of data and then generating other images, like the examples and the and some of the funny things too. Like we're laughing at these wacky images, like. Stable Diffusion was training a whole bunch of was training on a whole bunch of soccer players, football players, and they even started copying in the Getty Images watermark. But then you can see like how many times we've made fun of AI for not properly drawing in what the human body looks like, but it gets so much better, so much faster. So yeah, talking about fair use, and then the last section of this, it's not just Stable Diffusion, talking about GPT-3, DAL-E, GitHub, Copilot, OpenAI. I mean, like there are so many other rivals and competing industries for this type of machine learning, and it just gets real messy. It's so messy. So yeah, that article is a banger, and it's also terrifying. Terrifying. McCorcoran's still posting parts of this poem. It's hilarious. I can't stop to go through all this. We're getting to the end of the news block here. I'm going to keep this one simple. There's another bill that I think is going to be another very significant challenge, and I think is a very scary step towards a type of tech future that I do not want. And I would imagine that many of the people in this chat would likely agree that this isn't the direction that we probably want to go. So to start this conversation off, I'm gonna link in my show notes for this week's episode two resources that I think do a very good job of one, emotionally showcasing the outrage over where this could lead, and then two, an organization that has consistently done good work in protecting the rights of digital citizens, their privacy, and their security. So going into screen share, the first link would be Louis Rossmann. The Restrict Act must be stopped. Prison time for VPNs. No freedom of information requests. Lobbyists get to work for the government. This is bad. This is a 36-minute video, and in true Louis Rossmann style, it is very emotionally charged. He is very frustrated. I think deservedly, this is a very bad step for our government taking what could be considered a potential harm, something like TikTok, wedging that through in the idea of won't someone please think of the children, and coming out the other side of that, attacking tools that are just good tools for everybody to have, things like VPNs. The problem I have with how some of this Restrict Act is structured is it's very specific about some things and then a little too vague about others. So part of the Restrict Act would be you can't engage in business or using apps and data and services or online communications on platforms that are built by governments that we feel are dangerous. One of the countries listed is North Korea. Of course, one of the other countries listed is China. And that's a little too vague. But the other part of that problem is it's kind of like the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Technically, you can buy a movie, like a Blu-ray, and make your own backup of that movie, right? That's technically legal. You can safeguard and back up and protect the content that you've bought. Unfortunately, what's illegal is circumventing copy protection. So if there is any copy protection on your Blu-ray, you're not allowed to circumvent that. You're allowed to make a backup, but you're not allowed to do anything that would circumvent copyright. I find some of the Restrict Act is written a little nebulously with VPNs as well. Technically, you'd be allowed to use a VPN for legal things. But then the whole point of a VPN is to anonymize your traffic. So you have to then sort of report on yourself. I was using a VPN to do these things and to share these files and to interact with these companies or organizations. So what's the point of using a VPN? It's kind of a gotcha. I was using a VPN, and that's my own personal business. And I mean, specifically, I've worked with clients that they've had some sensitive files that they've wanted to keep sort of locked down a little bit better than just me signing an NDA. So I log into one of their systems over VPN, and that's how we've collaborated on content. I mean, you'll see that a lot in like the film industry. Like, someone wants to make a trailer for a movie, they kind of need the whole movie. Well, you can't just give them the whole movie. That's insecure. So you create these systems where you can kind of pipeline people directly into these servers to work off of this content, and you protect that data. But after a point, this just gets silly. Like, you can use this tool, but you can't use it if you talk to a company in another country. So you have to tell us what you were using the tool for. That's not okay. That's not security, that's not privacy. That is an authoritarian step by our government to try and wrangle in what kind of data and what kind of services consumers can use. And citizens of this country should be able to more freely operate around the internet without that kind of yoke of proving that you didn't do something illegal. A bill like this assumes you have done something illegal until you prove that you are innocent. And I have a very big issue with that should run afoul of the way that we set up the legal protections for citizens in this country. Yeah, Dave Burns. Yeah, and Twin Folk absolutely correct too. We eviscerated the right to privacy with the Patriot Act, and Twin Folk says this is like the Patriot Act on steroids. And a DTNL is exactly what I was kind of poking around at. This is a bill to me that feels a lot like it's guilty until proven innocent. Let me get this out of the way here. So, Louis Rossmann, 36 minutes, and you'll get the sort of emotionally charged commentary. He's going to go through individual parts of it. He's reading specific sections. He's having reactions to how he feels about this stuff. But the other organization that I'd really like you to consider not only reading through, but also supporting. I do a charitable donation to the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Stop the Restrict Act and pass real privacy legislation. I'll take a quick drink of water, then I'm going to read through a little bit of this passage here. Under the guise of curbing data collection by foreign governments, the Restrict Act, Senate Bill 686, would set the stage for a restriction on the use of TikTok, but not do nearly enough to truly protect our private information. Due to undefined mitigation measures coupled with a vague enforcement position, the bill could also criminalize common practices like using a VPN or sideloading to install a prohibited app. There are legitimate data privacy concerns about social media platforms, but this bill is a distraction from real progress on privacy. Tell Congress to stop giving more power to the administration under the guise of undefined and unspecified, quote, national security threats, end quote, and instead to focus on comprehensive consumer data privacy legislation that will have a real impact. Our data must be protected no matter what platform it's on: TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere else that's profiting from our private information. This would also limit the availability of this data to foreign adversaries. I could not have said it better myself. If you were on the Discord when we were doing those congressional hearings, you know, the CEO of TikTok is just getting grilled by these chest puffery, grandstanding politicians that are, and we talked about this before, and I'm just going to repeat myself here, but it was so painful. It was so cringe inducing watching these politicians try and throw these gotchas at the CEO of TikTok because it's all so hypocritical and disingenuous. On the Discord, the day that happened, this was, I think it's on March 23rd. If you scroll back to the general channel on Discord to March 23rd, or maybe it was March 24th, they're having a conversation in there, and I spelled out, they're going to try and attack TikTok, but they don't have the legal authority to do so because they've been letting social media companies just operate this way. So there's nothing they can do to TikTok that wouldn't also harm Apple and Google and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter. Anything that they would do to rein in TikTok in this current, you know, sort of a legislative climate, and the current laws and regulations that they have, it's not going to work. So then the politicians are going to wring their hands and just go, oh, but the children, we need to think of the children and protecting them against this evil TikTok, this evil China TikTok. And they're going to come up with other rules that circumvent our current legislation. So they're going to put countries on a list, and then they're going to start attacking things like Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And they're also wedging in consumer protections like using VPNs and encryption and sideloading apps, because they can't go after TikTok with anything that would harm Google. But that's exactly what needs to happen. The EFF is absolutely correct here. If you're worried about your data security and your data privacy, we need to stop Apple from sucking up all of your user behavior so that they can sell more targeted ads to people on the App Store. Like, that's bad. We need to acknowledge how terrible that is. It's weaponized on TikTok. But if we came up with a broad consumer protection plan where we had more regulations placed on social media apps and services, we would have the regulatory teeth to go after TikTok specifically when they transgressed. Right now, we don't want to do that. We don't want to rein in Apple. We don't want to rein in Google. We don't want to rein in Facebook. We're going to make a show of it in a congressional hearing and wag our fingers. We'll fine them tens of thousands of dollars when they do something bad. But that's what needs to happen. I am going to ask that you catch this article on EFF. It's going to be linked in the show notes. Actually, while we're here in the live stream, I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to drop it into the chat right now. I'm going to ask people to catch the EFF. If you have the means to maybe financially contribute as a charitable donation to the EFF, I would recommend you do so. But also clicking on Learn More so that you can get even just a little bit more information if you want to know what's going on with the Restrict Act. And this is one of those that I'm going to ask that, like net neutrality and broadband distribution and all of these other major triggering tech topics, that we spend some time not just complaining on social media in our preferred echo chambers, but maybe set up a group email and send this to some friends, send this to some family. I think we could all agree, like, hey man, Facebook sucks. What if there were regulations that made Facebook suck less? Is a statement that I feel transgresses political divides and gets people kind of nodding along. What if there was some way that we could rein in TikTok and also do a little damage to Google's ad business? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm for that. Send that to all of your iPhone owning pals, right? What if we could rein in Google? Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to ask that we make an effort on this one. Not just enough to kind of read along on the articles and kind of tisk like I usually do. I'm going to ask that you maybe write some emails and some letters to your elected officials at the state level and at the federal level, saying this is policy that I do not agree with. I will actively be campaigning for opponents to this measure. I will be communicating with my family and friends to not support this and to alter their voting pattern if politicians are supporting this kind of behavior. And if they start to get a few more messages with some kind of momentum behind that, I feel like that does better than us just complaining on social media. Right now, any kind of complaining on social media is just a vacuum. It doesn't matter. It doesn't contribute to the conversation at all. So I'm asking for this one specifically, where normally I'd say, hey, go out and support your favorite content creators and go out there and share YouTube videos and stuff. Please keep up with that too. But this one kind of matters. Every single time we see bad policy like this come up, it's going to keep coming up. And it's exhausting because we have to keep fighting that fight. But we have a generational divide on our elected officials where they do not understand the ramifications of what they're voting on in these bills, in these measures. And the only voice that they're hearing are the voices with a lot of money. They're going to turn to their lobbyists, and the lobbyists are going to say, this is good for America. They're going to go, okay, but make sure you keep funding my campaign. And they're going to be like, yep, you got it. Here's thousands of dollars. We're going to give you a campaign contribution of a couple $1,000s. And the politician's like, whoa, that's great money. And then all of this just gets wrecked. I know Meta is sitting on the sidelines just dying for this. They want better access to your data, and they don't want the competition from TikTok. So they're using our elected officials to put a better position for them in the market. Google is going to make more money if TikTok is forced out of North America. I don't philosophically have a huge issue with TikTok being banned in the United States over their data collection policy. I feel that data collection policy should apply to every social media platform. And we can't get there until we shed off this team us versus team them mentality. It's us versus them, but it's users of platforms versus the platforms. That's the us versus them. It's not Facebook versus Google versus Apple versus Amazon. I like my TikTok, so I'm going to fight Instagram. That's not how this works. And that's not how anything good gets done. We need to be a showcase for good information, for good data, and to be those resources for our family and friends that they know they can turn to us and say like, hey, this is dumb and it's complicated. And you can say, wouldn't you like it if social media had more regulations and more hoops to jump through before they wrecked all your user data? Well, yeah, that'd be great. Cool. Then we need to fight this. You need to be against the Restrict Act because it's not going to make anything better. Oh, but I heard that China. That's right. No. We're absolutely concerned about data going to China. Fair. We're also concerned about your data going to every other social media platform too. So why don't we just put a huge hurt on all of them? Oh, yeah, okay. It's like you always want to agree into their complaint to then show them like, well, but this is not how we would do it. This is how we would do it. And if you do this, then everyone else gets hurt. But if you do this, all of the platforms have more hoops to jump through and it makes it more difficult to do bad things. We actually need to put some effort behind this one. Oh, El Jefe reviews, done and done. Hey Jeff, thanks for jumping in on the stream. This one's gonna get messy because if the Restrict Act fails, we're gonna see yet another attempt at this in another year. Every year we see some kind of dopey legislative excuse for legal refinement of online commerce, and every year it's pretty bad. And right now we don't have a functioning FCC. So some of the protections that we would have as citizens of the United States is already eroded because the FCC is deadlocked. So one of our main regulatory bodies in the telecommunications space can't operate with any significant teeth in this conversation. We're left with the FTC doing things that really aren't the purview of the FTC. And we're allowing this kind of data brokering policy to kind of continue unfettered. I talked about it on reviews.org. We talked about it on the podcast. It was about a year ago. That all of the ISPs in this country are basically sucking up all your user data and selling it off. And in many ways, you can take that user data, buy it, and find trends in that data that can identify people. That happened to one of the Secret Service members on Trump's detail. That's really bad. Whatever your feelings on the Trump administration, You could just go buy user data from a cell phone carrier and find a Secret Service member who was protecting the president. That should not be. You should not have that kind of access to data. That is a direct issue with how we currently allow for sales of this stuff. So the FTC detailed all of the ways that ISPs were selling off your info, but they don't have the regulatory oversight over that business practice. Who did they point it to? They said the FCC needs to be granted better regulatory teeth to rein in this type of practice, and we need to replace net neutrality policies in this country. Like, other commissions are talking about how we need to, if the point of this commission is to protect the interests of North American citizens, of United States citizens, these are the steps that we would do to bring back the protections that people should expect so that being online doesn't hurt you. And like, we can't get there. We can't get there because of this kind of silly partisan wrangling from people. Like, oh no, you can't put that person on the FCC because then the liberals would be able to vote for things. And it was never an issue when Ajit Pai was at the head of the FCC. It was fine. But now, for some reason, now that a Democrat is in office, and a very center-right leaning Democrat in Joe Biden, is like, oh no, we can't let him appoint an FCC chairman because then the FCC might be functional. It's so dumb. So yeah, it's pretty great. McCorcoran, this to me is also like, as a left-leaning individual, I get nervous because I could see liberals talking themselves into this bill since it's technically part of Biden's agenda, and boy howdy, do us on the left really need to hit this one hard. Biden is in office. This has broad bipartisan support, and it's a popular knee-jerk reaction. TikTok, China, bad. But that's not it. Like I said, I have no philosophical issues with TikTok being banned in the United States for bad policy in protecting user data. That standard needs to apply to every company. Again, it's a philosophical net neutrality issue for me. Every company should be held to that standard. And when Google transgresses, when Apple transgresses, when Facebook transgresses, they need to be held to that same regulatory standard. And that's what we need to, that's the idea we need to break through. If you just single TikTok, the tools for singling TikTok are going to hurt people. If we hold every social media company to the same standard, that's better for everybody. And again, I feel like you can get conservatives and liberals nodding along. As soon as you see what phone they have, oh, you've got the Pixel, right? Haven't you heard about Apple like really doing all this stuff with their apps? And like they complain about Google harvesting your user data, but then they're doing the same thing. You know what I think? I think all companies just need to get a regulatory squeeze, right? You like, as soon as you know what the angle might be, you can immediately agree, and then also position this as a let's get them all. Not just TikTok. Let's get them all. But no, it's going to be media in the United States has a vested interest in going after whatever is the most popular, because right now the most popular is TikTok. So TikTok is the most evil. And so they're framing it as like, hey, let's go after them first. And all of the media companies aren't looking at the sort of fallout or the larger ramifications because they want TikTok gone. Their business will do better if TikTok is not a competitor and they can kind of go back to like just having to deal with Facebook and Instagram, right? So it's going to be tough because the messaging isn't getting backed up. The reporting on this is kind of skewed through the lens of, well, what would be better for our organization? Well, it would be better if TikTok just disappeared. And that's not okay. Yeah, McCorcoran says, yikes, this bill has at least 10 Democratic Party co-sponsors. That's broad bipartisan support, which is a red flag that it's a poopy policy. Yeah, no, this one's going to be a pretty brutal fight. And see, and Jeff, exactly, man. This is totally the point, and we need to always redirect the conversation to this. Jeff says TikTok is the scapegoat here. I agree that they need standards that apply to all the platforms. Meta and Google have to be included here too. But as soon as you start talking about harvesting user data, you've got to lump in Amazon, you've got to lump in Apple. Every single organization, platform, or service that collects, harvests, and profits off of user data, we need to create a system that will go after them all. Again, Apple doesn't get to just spend millions and millions and millions of dollars marketing how they're different and then do the same things that Facebook is doing. It's not okay. They need to be held to the same regulatory standard as any other media platform or tech distribution platform. Oh, man, yeah, McCorkin. I guess I'll contact my local senators, Warren and Markey. Man, I wish Warren was my senator. That'd be pretty cool. I really like Elizabeth Warren. So those two articles, please keep some mind share active with all of the tech news that's going on right now. And we're all exhausted by some of these more challenging tech stories, but this one matters, and we've got to drum up the energy to have a part of that fight. I'll be writing some emails to my congressional and Senate members. I might also try and go local and just talk about, hey, these are policies that I think harm consumers. California can set a standard for this. California has done so in the past. The only reason you knew Samsung was selling off your user data in Samsung Pay was because California took the first step on reining in that kind of data trafficking in the United States. That kind of stuff matters. And so I feel like if not just at the federal level, but also at the state level, there are some benefits to delivering that kind of outreach, to having those kinds of conversations. And you're only going to get sent to a staffer, but if there's any kind of temperature taking, and they can see that people are generally against this kind of policy, then we'll have a better chance of blocking it before it becomes a real problem. I'm going to take another drink of coffee here. Man, we only have a couple things in the gadget block, so I might need to end this podcast not only on time, but maybe even a little early. So I'm going to skip the subreddit plug, but reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. I won this week, so I don't really feel it's super critical that we go through the list, but my V27 Pro article did well. I do want to highlight Tech by Germain, second place looking at the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and then my buddy, Josh Vergara, came in third with the Asus ROG Flow Z13 ACRNM RMT02. So I don't know what that is, but it's Asus and it seems pretty cool. So, rounding out the top five. Jason, Painfully Honest Tech, has a video titled "I've Been Really Sick." I haven't seen that video right there. And then number four, I shared this video because Shannon Morse is awesome. And Snubs put out a really great video looking at the security of web browsers. So if you don't like some of the changes coming to Chrome and Chromium, you can look at some of her other suggestions for browsers. Up in the upper left-hand corner is Firefox, and I'll stand for Firefox every single time I get a chance to. It's pretty great. So hold on, let me drink some more coffee here real quick. Okay. I also want to highlight, so Dave Burns on the Discord throughout this kind of helpful reminder. If you're on Twitter, I think they've already pulled the plug on two-factor authentication over SMS. Twitter can't pay for text messages anymore. They're too broke. So they removed SMS two-factor authentication, which is the least secure method of 2FA. So two-factor is where you log into a website, you put in your username and your password, and then another code is generated uniquely for that time point that you're logging in. And so they'd send you a code to your email or send you a code to a text message, or you can use another app which time syncs. I'm grossly oversimplifying all this. Time syncs, and then it knows to look for this number code, and then that's how you log into the website. It's one extra barrier that prevents someone from just hijacking your account. If someone gets your username and your password and they can get directly in, you want something that will prevent them from getting into your stuff. So Dave Burns put out the helpful reminder, hey, yeah, two-factor is going away. Two-factor SMS is going away. Now would be a good time to look at an authenticator app. So it's a little app that runs on your phone and generates that code, or to look at a hardware solution. And so I did finally pick up a hardware key. This is from Yubico, and Dave recommended this, but if you want more information on a good two-factor key, so this is it looks like a little USB flash drive, and you plug it into your computer, and this is like a piece of hardware that you say represents me. So now if someone logs into my YouTube account, right? Linus Tech Tips just recently got hacked. If someone logs into my YouTube account, now they also need to have a physical piece of hardware to get into my account. So they can have my username and my password. They can get that far, and then Google's gonna say, oh, okay, cool. So you have your username and password, now plug in your key. And if they don't have this physical piece of hardware right here in my fingertips, they can't get in. I would highly recommend checking a solution like this out. I mean, there are a couple of different options on the market. I looked up Yubico because of some of the recent videos. But if you want a deeper dive on how these things work, check out Snubs, Shannon Morse. She has a couple of really, really good videos, not just on how they set up, but some of the other things you can do with them. And she's asking for people out in the community, if you want a deeper dive on what else you can do for security and privacy, to definitely check out her channel. These keys are super cool. I'm now getting really cranky when a website doesn't support a hardware key, because it's so nice. Like, you know, I log into my account, and then they're like, okay, now flash your key. And it has a little NFC on it, and you go, bloop, and you go, okay, now you're logged in. And it's way easier than like copying the code that you get through a text message. I was real lazy. I was just doing SMS for everything because I swapped so many phones. I really can't do an authenticator app. But going to a key that I can keep on my keychain, and when you don't have NFC, you just go boop, and you plug in the USB-C, and then your website goes, oh, okay, yeah, I know who you are. Awesome. This is so geeky cool. I'm such a fan now. I'm going to every single platform I can. Hey, is there any hope that you will support two-factor authentication through a hardware security key in the near future? It would reduce your costs on SMS messaging and notifications. It's so cool. I love it. I love it. Oh, Jeff, seriously, dude. Seriously, I dream of a day when banks support hardware keys. I've already written, I do business with 2 credit unions, and I've gotten a positive reply from one of them that, like, yes, this is absolutely something that we're looking at engaging with. And you're like, please do. This is so much more secure, and this is so much more convenient. It's so good. So good. Aditya Anil asks a very good question, and I'm going to hand you off, Aditya Anil. Go catch some of the videos on how to use two-factor keys from Shannon Morse. If you have any questions about how these keys operate or what they can be used for, I'd rather send you to someone who is more knowledgeable than me. So definitely check out her channel. She's got some great content on these USB keys. Okay, getting into sort of the gadget block here. I just want to throw this out here. Oh, I don't have the link up. I'm real good at doing the podcasting. Hold on, let me get this. Copy this link. I tweeted about it this morning, and now put this back. I'm on Mint Mobile. If you're on Mint Mobile, they just bumped up everybody's data plans. So starting in April, every plan gets bumped up. So my wife is on a 4 GB plan. She gets an extra gig. She gets moved up to 5. I'm on a 10 GB plan. I get moved up to 15, and they're not changing any of their rates. So this would also be a very good time to consider Mint Mobile, because they're really aggressively trying to hold on to subscribers. they announced that they were going to be acquired by T-Mobile. So T-Mobile will properly own Mint, not just Mint being a standalone MVNO. They're really trying not to rock the boat. So now would be a very good time to look at Mint service because they're improving their plans for everybody without changing their prices. I'm going to drop this in the chat, and it's also in the show notes if anyone is interested. I have a referral code that if you want, you can check out or try and sign up. Oh, that's not the referral code. Hold on. I copied that out of my Twitter, so that doesn't work. So, I mean, it technically will work, but it's a Twitter condensed link. That's the full content medium referral code. If you're interested in Mint service and you want to sign up, I find they are a terrific value, especially if you can pay for a year. So Marie and I pay yearly. We have one big phone bill in June, and then we just sort of forget about it for a whole year. And combined, our services combined are cheaper than most other standalone cell phone plans that charge every month. So you can check it out. It's great. We've really enjoyed it. The only time it kind of sucks is when you're in super high traffic times and you get throttled a little bit faster than T-Mobile subscribers will get throttled. Other than that, it's been baller. So also really good if you're considering like a second or a standalone line or a temporary line. You can pay for like a couple of months and then let it sit for just a little bit, pay for a couple more. So yeah, Mint has been really good to us. I also want to do a pair of gaming announcements here. I feel like this one's kind of sad and it sort of is awful timing. Hold on one second. I am a fan of gaming phones. I believe they are a fun, interesting niche. And I've been really positive on Android gaming for a couple years now. Really, compute power is compute power. If you're a reasonably powerful phone, there are so many really fun games that you can play, and your performance per watt is easily competitive against significantly more expensive gaming machines, gaming devices, gaming laptops, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's more convenient. You already have your phone. If you spend a little bit more on your phone, you can get something that's targeted, that's focused for what you like to do. Camera and content creation, those phones play games well. But if you really want to play games, you really want to get into it, a gaming phone makes sense. I feel like that's a fair comparison, how you might want to spend your entertainment dollars. So I was kind of sad to see that Lenovo confirms it has shut down its Legion gaming phone business. Lenovo will no longer be making gaming phones. So this doesn't touch any of the other gaming solutions. So like the Legion name, like Lenovo makes a bunch of like gaming laptops. They were making gaming desktops for a while. This won't impact any of that, but they are pulling out of gaming phones, and I feel like this is sad because like we're right on the cusp of really good hardware that would better support gaming devices. Like a Lenovo Legion with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 would be an incredible performer. We've already seen the Red Magic is kind of indomitable. Samsung can talk about, Samsung Qualcomm for Galaxy phones. Cool. That Snapdragon for Samsung is good. And it actually demonstrates a few important wins against other similarly built phones. But then you put an active cooling fan on a Red Magic and nothing's slowing that phone down. I saw a test with the Red Magic Pro, the Red Magic 8. Was it the Red Magic 8 or 8 Pro? I don't remember now. Anyway, that this reviewer rooted the phone, got into the files of Genshin, and then boosted Genshin to like 4K video rendering, and the phone was able to keep pace. It wasn't playing it at the fastest frame rate, but it was keeping like high 20s, low 30s in terms of frame rate. So we're talking about graphics fidelity and graphics quality that can directly compete against a standalone GPU. Like I believe they said it was somewhere around a GTX 1050 to 1060. Like I have a 1660 Super in my little mini gaming PC. That thing is a 70-watt GPU. An entire phone, an entire Red Magic was topping out at 10 watts, 1/7 the power draw, and it was keeping pace with what I would have expected to see out of my 1660 Super. Insane. And just real quick, J-Man 150, Another tier 1 sub to Al Zombino. Thank you again. Well, also, first of all, thank you, Al Zombino, for jumping in and checking out the stream. But J-Man, thank you for supporting and thank you for contributing, man. That is really awesome, and I really appreciate it. So it's really sad to see Lenovo getting out of this market right now because I feel like there are a couple little interesting developments. I've really enjoyed playing with the Razer Edge, a little mini Android tablet that focuses on gaming. I think gaming hardware specifically, there's an untapped potential there. And I feel the biggest thing holding it back has really been the manufacturers highlighting more games to play. From the days of, I still have it on my desk here, from the days of the Razer phone, this is my Razer phone 2, I would reach out to these companies and say like, hey, 120 hertz display, what can I play on that? Oh, we've got a list of games. And you go to that list of games and it's like, this list of games is 2 years old. Two of these games aren't even on Google Play anymore. And the rest of these don't really do anything that well. What other games can people play? And I feel like if someone I want to reach out to Razer and say, make a list of cool Android games to play that functions more like, like a Steam Deck. I want to go and buy Dead Cells. Show off Dead Cells. I want to go and play Baba Is You. Show off Baba Is You. Show off these games that you go and you buy and then you play the game. Don't keep just showing me these like gotcha games, subscription games, Google for gaming. Miserable. Miserable. This isn't fun. But show me some titles that can really take advantage of this hardware and do a good job. Show, like put Alien Isolation on a list. You can play this console quality game, one of the best survival horror games of all time. You know what? If you like that game, maybe you'd also like Bendy and the Ink Machine. That's on Android. You can play that really well on an Android device. Don't just put out the hardware, put in the rest of the marketing and the messaging on whatever platforms you have for social media and help gamers find these games. Be a better resource than Google search, because Google search sucks. If you're in Google Play and you're trying to find games that aren't just terrible for microtransactions, you're in for a rough time. You've got to rely on other people suggesting games to find those games. So it's just kind of sad. I feel like the Legion was this really interesting piece of hardware that what it suffered was messaging. Why do you want to buy a gaming phone? What kind of games can you play? And if you let that conversation, if you leave that conversation up to people on Reddit, then all they're going to do is talk about how crap Android is for gaming. Android is awesome for gaming. Finding the games is a little bit more of a challenge. Every time I pick up this Razer Edge is flippin' brilliant as a little mini portable media tablet. And the fact that it all fits together, it's got active cooling, so you can kind of keep a higher tier of performance going. This is awesome. This thing is really good. You have to take that extra minute to find the games, and that's what slows people down. So, the other flip side of this, the reason why I think this is kind of a sad point for Android gaming, here's my hypothesis. Lenovo Legion, they've got a bunch of gaming laptops. Lenovo has been a force in mobile gaming, for laptop style gaming, for a while now. One of my all-time favorite laptop reviews was a Lenovo Legion. It was the Y700. I have that model name wrong. I believe by this time next year, there will be a Lenovo Legion handheld in the vein of my Steam Deck. I believe one of the reasons why the Lenovo Legion team might be pulling out of Android is to make something a bit more PC gaming portable, a little bit more like the Steam Deck, an AMD-powered mini computer that can also play games, right? That is my hypothesis. And one of the reasons why I believe the timing on this helps support my hypothesis is because for April Fool's Day, we got a very interesting video from Asus. Asus put out a video on something called the ROG Ally, ROG's first gaming handheld console. Wouldn't you know it, it looks quite a bit like one of these Steam Deck clones. Um, uh, Twin stick, buttons, triggers, little controls, speakers facing the viewer, a very large, bright display right in the middle. We've seen this form factor popularized quite a bit by other companies that are trying to kill the Steam Deck. I don't believe any of these are Steam Deck killers, but it's really nice having competition in this place. And also with an ROG, and one of the things I love is that all of their promo images for the ROG Ally have like, RGB lighting around the twin sticks, right? Stuff like that. We know ROG is going to put in all the RGBs because you need more. If you have more lights on your gaming PC, you get like 5 frames per second faster in every game you play. So this came out on April 1st. I think a lot of people just sort of assumed that it was an April Fool's joke, but Notebook Check. Oh, whoops! I'm down in the article. NotebookCheck.net, Asus ROG Ally, new Windows gaming handheld to launch with custom AMD Ryzen APU and eGPU support. So they're going with this like it's a legit option. This article from Notebook Check came out today, this morning. So even though this was announced on April 1st, I don't believe that it's going to be an April Fool's joke. They believe this is going to be a legit offering from Asus, kind of moving into the AMD gaming PC space. So a new APU that's going to be, the custom APU will feature a more powerful iGPU than the Radeon 680M that AMD includes in the 6800 and 6980HX. And ETA Prime is also commenting on this too. So it could be 8 or 12 compute units and performance something more like a Radeon 760. So if it's an ROG, I would imagine that Asus is waiting in this space until they can appropriately say we have the most powerful portable gaming device on the market. We know Steam's play is about creating a base level. The Steam Deck is surprisingly powerful. The Steam Deck is a very, for the price, the Steam Deck delivers performance that far exceeds what my expectations would have been for a $400-ish PC. Try and build a PC that can demonstrably outperform a Steam Deck and start at $400, and it's a tricky challenge. It's possible, totally possible, but it is a tricky challenge putting all those pieces together. So then try and make that gaming PC portable. And that's where you can see how heavily subsidized the Steam Deck is in terms of hardware. All of the other Steam Deck killers that don't really exist, because there is no such thing as a Steam Deck killer, are all significantly more powerful, but they are also much, much more expensive, and from companies that don't demonstrate the same kind of consistency in parts and pieces and repairs and distribution. You'll go to the forums of some of these other competitors and you're like, yeah, I've got this last generation portable console, and they won't reply to any of my emails about getting a repair part. I don't know where I can source this. Does anyone know how to disassemble that? And the difference is like a Steam Deck is wide open right now. You want to swap the SSD? It's super easy. You do this. Just make sure you pull out the SD card. You want a different backplate? You want a different cradle? You want a different case? It is a fully accessorized, and right now, I'm actually thinking of cracking open my Steam Deck, not because I want to do an SSD upgrade, but because I just don't like the sound of the fan. And I can get a replacement fan, and the replacement fan will be a better fan, and it'll be a quieter fan. That's probably going to motivate my first hardware tweak to my Steam Deck. So I wholly believe Asus is going to walk into this space, and their argument is going to be, we've got a very expensive portable. It's the most powerful portable you can buy. And we're Asus. So unlike some of these smaller players, if there's an issue, if there's support, if there's compatibility, if there's anything that you need, they have a track record of better support for their customers than these smaller players. So the spectrum is going to be Steam Deck intros as the sort of base level compatibility and the starting point. This is the expectation we should have for a portable gaming console that plays PC games, and then Asus is going to come in as we're the top option. So we're going to bookend the spectrum. Everything in between is going to be kind of a consideration point, right? Do I want to get a less expensive third-party player, but then I don't have the same support as a Steam Deck? Or do I want to get a more powerful player, but then I also don't have the same accessibility and accessories as I can get with an ROG Ally? And I believe that by this time next year, we're going to see a competitor from Lenovo in this space. You pull all of that manufacturing talent away from a gaming phone and you put them on a dedicated gaming portable like this, and I think you've got a really good argument. I think you've got a really good entry into a more traditional PC gaming space. So I think this is really like where the excitement is. Steam Deck in and of itself is a democratizing gaming accessory. It's premium. It's an expensive purchase, but it gets people into PC gaming in a way that few other standalone devices have kind of ignited this kind of interest. Then you've got room to build on top of the Steam Deck. You've got plenty of runway to make a more expensive option or a more powerful option, or different kinds of configurable and customizable options. That's great. And you can just run right up that chart. But you start with the Steam Deck as the foundation, as a sort of bedrock of what PC gaming should look like. So yeah, I'm really interested in this. Like I said, I don't believe anything is just going to come into this market and kill the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck has already shown that it can change some of the conversation around gaming laptops. But because of that, companies like ROG, like Asus ROG, that make gaming laptops, would be foolish not to also try their hand at a competitor in this space. The Steam Deck is a disruptor. It disrupts the sales of gaming laptops, and it does so very effectively. I have way more fun playing games on my Steam Deck and having that kind of portability and that kind of accessibility than I ever did. Like, okay, I've got my gaming laptop, now let me set it down and open the lid and connect a controller and game on this laptop, where the Steam Deck has none of those mobility issues. And also, like, the gaming laptop will be more powerful, but won't last nearly as long away from a charger if I really use that power in the gaming laptop. So yeah, this is pretty heavy. Android as a tablet solution is just starting to rebuild some of their mind share. We've got the OnePlus tablet coming out, the Pixel tablet coming out. Foldables are kind of trying to spark some excitement in general consumers. Now would be a really good time for a company like Razer to say, hey, there are these things out there that play PC games like this. We've got solutions that are better performance per watt, are more power efficient, can add cell phone radios for 5G connectivity. Often you'll get a better screen on an Android tablet at a similar price than on a gaming PC console at a similar price. They need to get ahead of that, but then they really need to start talking about the games. Part of that can be solved with game streaming. I love having Game Pass on my Razer Edge. I play a lot of games on Game Pass. That's great. But if you sell Game Pass, then it doesn't matter. I mean, like, I can play that on anything. I can play that on a phone with a controller. I can play that on an underpowered Chromebook. I can play it anywhere. Game Pass is only part of it that helps ease that purchase. If you can't also highlight native Android games that are worth showcasing, then people are going to kind of stray and walk away from that conversation. The gaming PC market is going to get really hot over this next year. Steam opened up a category that I think gaming PC aficionados have been dying for a while now. A real serious competitor, not just in being able to make a one-off boutique solution, but something that can really stand the test of time, something that really has legs, has longer term support, has more confidence in the market, and will be built upon for future iterations and future generations. It's pretty exciting. I'm really stoked on this. So we're getting down to those last 2 hours. I'm going to throw it out there. As we're closing this podcast out, what are y'all playing right now? This is something I keep forgetting to pin TK on. I have finished Dust and Neon. So Dust and Neon is a silly Western-themed sci-fi action top-down twin stick arcadey shooter. So you have to say all of that to properly describe Dust and Neon. It's a PC game, but it got an official port through Netflix. So if you subscribe to Netflix, there are a bunch of games on Netflix that are pretty good. I just wrapped up Dust and Neon. The end game on Dust and Neon is not as fun as the intro, where I like some of the mechanics of like you're this robot cyborg guy who's shooting these evil robots, and when you run out of ammo, you actually have to like button press to reload every cartridge. And in firefights, it's kind of got this fun gunslinger vibe to it. But then you get into the later boss missions, and it's kind of exhausting. Because like you kind of have to build up and get your guns ready and get to a point where you can go and show down against the boss. And then the boss introduces new mechanics, and like you have to learn those new mechanics in the boss fight. So I think the end game on Dust and Neon is a little flat. But the other game I've been playing a ton on both my Razer Edge and on my Steam Deck is Hades. I love a good dungeon crawler. I like the sort of rinse repeat of a good roguelite. It's got like it's kind of like if Diablo and Dead Cells had a baby, and that baby were really streamlined and simple and accessible to play. And I really dig the sort of loop on Hades. It's again, I like games that you can play for a long time, or you can also burst for like, hey, I just want to go through one level on Hades and then I can put my Steam Deck down and get back to, hanging out with my daughter or something like that. And that playability is so quick. It gets you in and gets you out super, super fast. So I've also had a really good time with Hades. And then with Lex, she rolled credits on Shredder's Revenge. She's been playing a little Overcooked. I think she likes Overcooked because mommy and daddy yell at each other when we all play Overcooked together. But the other game that she just started was Tomb Raider Temple of Osiris. So again, another top-down twin stick, but it's helping her get a better handle on controller mechanics. So this is the first time she's ever played a game where left stick moves the character around and right stick aims the character. And she's starting to tackle some of the platforming puzzles on her own. So that one I'm really hoping that she'll play a little bit more of, because it's like the best way to kind of learn about different styles of gameplay and different controller schemes. And she's getting it. Like she would do this thing where she would hold the controller in one hand and move one of the sticks like a joystick, like an Atari style joystick, and then take her hand off the stick and push buttons. And so now we feel like, no, 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 keep one thumb on this stick and one thumb on that stick, and then move your character around. And she's starting to grok it. So I think what we might try after this is the old, I don't know if anyone remembers this, is the old arcadey, what was it called? It was Halo Spartan Assault? Was that the old top-down twin stick? I think it was. I think it was Spartan Assault. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But once we get through Temple of Osiris, now that she has like a feel for one type of twin stick shooter, I'm gonna try her on Spartan Assault and see if she likes that one too. She's too young for like pulling out Dead Nation, but that's my all-time favorite. My all-time favorite twin stick shooter. So let's see. McCorcoran 3. I wish I could search for games with a filter that showed games with controller compatibility or no microtransactions. Give me some filters and I would use the Play Store. Yeah, it's a big problem because if you search for games, you could kind of filter on in-app purchases, but Google doesn't delineate. I think it should be different if there's currency purchases or subscription purchases versus unlocking DLC. So technically, Dead Cells has in-app purchases because you can buy DLC. But that's like a whole extra chunk of the game. Like that's exciting, that's cool. I'm happy to give them $5 and then like double the playtime of Dead Cells. It's very different than going into Marvel Future Fight and spending hundreds of dollars on jewels and content packs to rank up a character with your bios and stuff. Like, that's predatory. But according to Google, they're both in-app purchases. You bought something in the app. And I need a filter that changes gotcha versus DLC. And we'll never get that because Google makes too much money off of that kind of lack of transparency. Barry Johnson, I am playing Undead Horde right now. I hope that had something to do with me because I flippin' love Undead Horde. It is such a fun little arcadey unit management game. And I really like, again, I love that kind of top down vibe. It's like a twin stick shooter, but instead of you being this unkillable, gun toting, massacring thing, you raise an army of the undead and you send your minion off to go battle, and you have to also navigate around all of the enemies and stuff. Fungi, World of Goo, that's a classic. I think that's World of Goo is probably the game I own on the most number of platforms. Like I've got it on Amazon, I've got it on Google, I have it on Humble Bundle. There was a Humble Bundle that had World of Goo. World of Goo is again it's a mobile classic. Um, well, let's see. Dave Burns always has a great list of games. I pulled a few from him too. Dead Space. Dead Space is good times. Moonlighter. I really like Moonlighter, but the whole shopkeeping thing, because it's really like you own a shop and then you go and moonlighter. You go and moonlight as a dungeon crawler for a little while, and then you go back to run the shop. So what kind of circumvented Moonlighter for me was getting back into Children of Morta. So I like that better because it's just a more focused, top-down, twin-stick adventure kind of game. But Moonlighter is really, really good. And he's been playing Untitled Goose Game and Terra Nil. I still haven't played Untitled Goose Game, and I probably should do that. McCorcoran saying, I've been trying to find a trucking simulator that would support controller, but I can't find one. Dave Burns, Hades 2 is going to be a Dave and Liz co-stream. I would love to see you two hack and slashing your way through Hades 2. I've just adored Hades. It is so fun. It is so quick. It is so vibrant. And again, you can button mash your way through, but then once you start getting a good handle on different combos and different abilities, the gameplay loop changes. Like from fighting the first sort of mini boss and just sort of button mashing my way through it and eventually getting through that to then like, oh, I'm really seeing the attacks and I'm really seeing like how I can dash in, land this, combo out, shoot my special, and then repeat that loop. So much fun. Again, that's kind of what sold me on Hellblade back in the days. Hellblade, you can just sit there and button mash your attack, but when you really do get a feel for the combat mechanics, the game totally changes. The game is satisfying in one way, but it's interesting how it shifts up in another. And I felt that same way with Hades, where I was like, at first I felt like I'm just kind of smashing my way through this. Oh, there's a strategy that I can employ based on the upgrades and the powers that I get. Okay. Okay, now this is something a little different. Barry Johnson saying, yeah, I've been ignoring it for too long. Undead Horde, again, and as a mobile game, it's a good torture test. Is if you can play Undead Horde at max graphics and keep above 45 frames per second, you've got a good phone for that kind of gaming. Like the unit management can cook your CPU. Coppa Cache, Dead Cells is my jam right now. I just installed it. I haven't gone back to it. But the new Castlevania update is out for PC. I don't believe it's out for Android yet. But that's going to be next up after I kind of grind through Hades a little bit more, is going back to Dead Cells. I'm probably going to have to start all over. But I like that you can kind of abbreviate some of that and get right into the new content for Castlevania. And also along that side, that I'm kind of anxious to see it. There was some we just recently got it, not recently, but a little while back, we got an update for Vampire Survivors, and I maxed out all that. So I hope we'll see something new come into Vampire Survivors. Dave Burns, Children of Morta is a better game, no argument there. To me, it's not that it's a better game. It's that they're very different. And so I went into Moonlighter seeing the adventure part of the game, and I was expecting something like Children of Morta. The actual dungeon crawling is a little like that, but so much more of the game is built on your shop management. You're a shopkeeper. And that was this, I was like, okay, yeah, this is interesting, but I really just want to run dungeons. And so then Hades and Children of Morta are on my Steam Deck, and you're like, Moonlighter isn't getting as much attention because I have two games that focus on the dungeon crawling really, 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 really well. So, folks, thanks for jumping in on that last bit. I have not been doing enough talking about games, and I keep flirting with maybe trying to do a regular game stream, but I burn my voice out so often on just videos and podcasts and stuff. I've got to be really careful, like overcommitting to things, and I don't want to turn my hobby into just another side hustle or part of the business. But I'd love to hang out more regularly and kind of chat through this stuff. We're in such a fun gaming renaissance. I think being able to show off, like if I plug in a Razer Edge and I play games through that, being able to show like there are things that we can do, and there's some really exciting things that are happening, and the hardware is now well above, I think, most people's expectations. It's just we've got to get the message out more consistently about how to find good stuff to do on this hardware, and I don't think the hardware manufacturers are doing as much as they could. So it's kind of up to us. The whole theme of this podcast. Oh, if it's the government, well, it's kind of up to us. Oh, if it's your favorite smartphone and competition, well, it's kind of up to us. Oh, if it's about regulatory actions in the consumer space, well, it's kind of up to us. If it's just finding good games to play on your favorite console of choice, it's kind of up to us. So once again, I'm going to put out the shout. Please, please, please get active on this one. The Restrict Act, not good. Read up the EFF. Listen to that long video from Louis Rossmann. This is one that I feel needs some attention, needs some activity, and we're not going to get it just passively sitting and waiting and hoping that our politicians come to their senses. So I'm going to encourage activity on this one and reaching out to family and friends who also might be like-minded on these types of topics or these types of issues. I've got a bunch of videos coming out, absolutely guaranteed this week will be the second part of my 1-inch sensor camera videos looking at why you might not want a 1-inch sensor in your phone. And I'm hoping I can also get ahead. I have a long-term look back on the Moto Edge, the Moto Edge Plus from 2022. That's live on the Patreon right now, and I'm expecting that should be going live publicly later in the week. Just really fun looking back at a phone that I think was seriously underrated, but has also proving to be one of the best improved phones of its era. Like the updates to this have mattered a lot in how this phone operates. And I want to have a sort of a longer term conversation about that too. So, folks, thank you so much. And JMan150 and Gabaletta, the generosity just blown me away. I really do appreciate not only the support and people tweeting and retweeting and hashtagging and all that fun stuff, but literally like just being a part of these kinds of streams and bringing other people in and encouraging that kind of collaborative vibe. That's why I like to do this podcast the way that I do, and why I'm constantly kind of digging through and reading through all of these comments. That's the whole point. The whole point was always I liked being in the middle of a conversation, not acting like I was the last word or the conclusion. I always want this to feel like it's at the beginning of how we can kind of broach some of these topics, and then we can all sort of go off and have our own experiences with just that kind of knowledge or that kind of experience. So if it's spring break where you're at, I hope you're already having a lovely spring break and doing some fun vacation-y things. We've got some family activities planned. We're going to be doing a bit more of a staycation because we all kind of sound like me. We all kind of sound a little stopped up and rough throat and a little coughy and a little sneezy. So we're not going to travel like we were planning on originally. I had a whole travel vlog idea going for this week. That fell apart. But we are going to be looking to get out and hopefully just do some other fun things, like maybe some more bike rides and a zoo trip and that kind of stuff too. So if you've already had your spring break or if you're looking towards your spring break, I hope you get some time to unplug, spend time with family, spend time with friends, or just spend time working on yourself and being right with yourself. And as always, I hope you are well fed and safe and happy. So folks, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I said most of those letters correctly. I can barely articulate. Like I'm having to consciously think about my vowels and consonants. So it sounded like I said bowels. Oh man, I'm real bad at this week, guys. Okay. Yeah, so take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the show. Be safe. I love you all. I'll catch you back.